One gene does not equal one trait. Usually, many genes work together to specify a trait. There is not one gene that specifies your skin color, for example. Dozens of genes are involved in making the pigments that color your skin. Similarly, there is not one gene that specifies heart health. Many genes work together to make your heart beat, and they can influence your risk for heart disease. Your genes are not your destiny. Genes interact with the environment to specify traits. In other words, your experiences contribute to who you are. For example, we all inherit genes from our parents that make us more or less likely to develop certain diseases. Yet exercise and nutritious food improve our health, often preventing or delaying disease. Genes and the environment interact to affect other traits as well, including personality, musical talent, and athletic ability. Same genes, different alleles. We often talk about someone having the gene for curly hair or the gene for straight hair, but different hair textures are not controlled by separate genes. They result from slightly different versions of the same genes, also called alleles. In this example, multiple genes code for proteins that work together to make hair. Whether hair is curly or straight comes from variations in genes that affect the shape of hair follicles. All of the differences in our inherited traits come from variations within a common set of genes. The probability of inheriting a certain characteristic is the same for each child. For each gene, we inherit 2 random alleles out of our parents' 4. We can predict how likely a child is to inherit a certain allele, but we cannot predict exactly which alleles an individual child will inherit. For example, let's say a couple has a 1 in 4 chance of passing a rare genetic condition to their child. If their first child has the condition, the chance their second child will have it is still 1 in 4. Likewise, if you already have 3 daughters, there is still a 50-50 chance that your 4th child will be a girl. We inherit equal amounts of DNA from both parents. Many cultures have myths about inheritance. Have you ever heard someone say that boys look more like their mothers and girls look more like their fathers? Or that a girl inherits more genes from her mother? The truth is, we inherit 1 copy of every gene from our mothers and 1 from our fathers. Our parents contribute equally. DNA comes from parents and only parents. We cannot inherit traits from our aunts, uncles, cousins, or siblings. The DNA that we have in common with our relatives was all passed down through the family tree from parent to child. If you have an allele in common with your aunt, it's because it came from your grandparents, her parents. The allele passed from your grandparents to both your aunt and your mom, then from your mom to you. Because of the way DNA travels down the family tree, closer relatives like siblings have more DNA in common than more distant ones like cousins. Mutation is not always bad. Mutation is a natural process that is essential for evolution. It is both constant and common. In fact, we are all mutants. Each one of us has new variations in our DNA that were not present in our parents. Most often, mutation creates differences that are neither good nor bad. For example, mutation generated the differences in genes that influence nose shape. Even though no 2 noses are exactly alike, most function equally well. All of our cells contain identical DNA. Egg and sperm come together to make a single cell. That cell divides over and over again to make a person. Each time it divides, it passes down a complete copy of its DNA. Each one of our cells has a copy of the DNA that was present in that first cell, though mutation does happen along the way. Then what makes a brain cell different from a heart cell? Different sets of genes are active in different types of cells. Active genes in heart cells code for proteins that make the cells contract. These genes are turned off in brain cells, which don't need to contract. Instead, active genes in brain cells code for proteins that allow them to send signals back and forth.